Hello everyone, welcome back to Weaving Web3. We are live at ETH Milan and I've got a really exciting guest. Today I've got Bruno, DevRel at Polygon Agglayer. So why should we be excited about Polygon Agglayer and what can you tell us about it?
So the Agglayer is trying to address the fragmentation of L2s. There's too many L2s, there's more L2s than users in Web3. And we have this fragmented liquidity. And so you have very limited TVL on all of these different chains. You have whales manipulating prices and all the conditions on these different chains because of this low TVL. You also have this inaccessibility where people build app chains and then they lack the liquidity or connection to the applications and protocols on other chains. And so it's all very isolated. It's all a bunch of little isolated pawns. The Agglayer is here to seamlessly connect all of this in the rollup centric ecosystem where you can actually communicate with chains without invading on those chains' sovereignty. So those chains can stay sovereign. They don't have to make architectural changes to join the Agglayer. They just have to run a separate kind of software that's called a prover that will generate the proofs for their state transitions and submit it to the Agglayer, which will then verify it. And through that process, chains can actually send messages to one another, so you can actually seamlessly communicate from one chain to the other in one go in a very low latency way without having to change the chain itself. So that's the ultimate goal, connecting all the EVMs under this banner of the Agglayer. The Agglayer is kind of like a public good. It's started in Polygon, but it's being developed in the open for the public, by the public, and it's supposed to kind of aggregate this liquidity where you can now, let's say in theory, because right now we're not there yet, but you will be able to leverage the unified liquidity of a token. So one token is on one chain, that token's other version is on another chain, and you want to trade it on chain 3. Through one transaction on the Agglayer, you will be able to leverage all of those balances that you have across these chains in one single action that you want to do, whether it's staking, leveraging for a loan, so using it in some sort of NFT marketplace and so on. So it's just meant to aggregate layer 2s.
So essentially you're getting rid of bridges, right? And removing that single point of failure. I understand like the whole point of it is just to have like this whole unification, and like I guess in my experience as a DeFi degen, I want to sell some tokens on another protocol and then there's not enough liquidity and then I either get front run or something like that. So like in my point of view, do you think bridges are going to become obsolete, or do we think they're still going to exist? Do you think Agglayer will be like, okay, well, this is our infrastructure, we are going to be offering this unification to ensure that people have that best experience, that quality of life within the DeFi ecosystem?
That's a great question. I think there's always room for bridges because there's always room for competition. Yeah. The more competition there is, the better the user experience for everybody. But yes, the Agglayer unified bridge, which is already live and you can use it already to bridge across all of these connected chains, is aiming for that best user experience, lowest latency and highest security. And we do this with the concept of pessimistic proofs, where this this layer of checking makes an assumption that every chain that's submitting proofs to the Agglayer is malicious.
Yes.
Or is hacked, or is somehow compromised. And so even if a chain suffers some kind of breach, some kind of rollback, something that would basically disturb the balances, this hack cannot spill over to the other connected chains, even though they're all using the same unified bridge. And this is the key point here. Even if a chain gets wrecked, it doesn't wreck the other chains that are connected to it. You can only withdraw from this unified bridge as much as you've deposited into it. So there's this check happening there. And so by this extension, you have this security that makes sure that there's no spillover, but you also have this unification of communication across chains and bridging that will allow you to seamlessly use the bridge for any connected chain. Of course, chains have to opt into the Agglayer to join this, so we cannot force this bridge on anyone. But I think the UX and DX appeal of this will speak for itself and attract them.
Okay, would you be able to explain slightly what the whole pessimistic idea, because I know maybe many people might be aware of it, but we all know about optimistic stuff, roll-ups, but what really drives that mechanism to make sure that the verification is there?
It's named that way to sound smarter than it is.
Okay.
In reality, it's just a chain will generate this local exit tree, this local balance tree that tells it how much balance it has. It will generate proofs also of its state transition. It will send this to the Agglayer. The Agglayer will just verify this proof that the chain's transition is indeed okay and that the balance is indeed positive, that it's trying to withdraw. And if it's not, it will just say no. and it will not include it in the Agglayer stack of information that's listed, that's logged into the contract on the L1. And that's all there is to it. So if you do something illegal, the prover will reject you, and that's the pessimistic proof. It just assumes that, wait a minute, you're suspicious, let me check how suspicious you are, and then if you're not suspicious, you're allowed to progress. Otherwise, it's going to be rejected. And that's the whole concept behind the pessimistic proof. The reason why we're calling it, not just a balance check, but a pessimistic proof is because there's actual proving going on. It's actually generating a proof. It's actually a computationally intensive process. There's a Rust binary behind the scenes that's processing all of this and so on. But in general, it's a very simple concept that just prevents you from taking more money than you have.
Okay, that's something really we need to be watching out in the days of like all the hacks that are happening, right? So with this whole unification and the unity that you have, what could you possibly build that is significantly harder on like a multi-chain kind of way where there's all the fragmentation? Like what kind of things would you be looking forward to? Let's say developers or people are watching this, what would you be excited and the possibility to see to use this Agglayer?
Well, I'm not a DeFi guy, but the DeFi angle is absolutely the USP here. Just being able to have fungible tokens across all of these chains is a game changer, because now you don't have Axel.USDC versus W.USDC. You don't have this fragmentation of the same asset. You actually have one so-called canonical asset that you are making compatible across all of these chains. And so you have this unified bridge that's bridging the same thing everywhere. And so now you have this unified balance of that same thing, which you can use anywhere you want. If I have, 10,000 remark tokens on Base and 10,000 remark tokens on Polygon POS, and I want to trade it all on Polygon ZK EVM, I can now trade both of those combined as if I have this liquidity on one chain, and so I have much deeper liquidity. Same thing if it's listed on Uniswap on one chain and on Uniswap on the other chain, and the LP is very shallow on both, then I can unify these because they're all using the same canonical asset behind the scenes. Another aspect is, historically, as a crypto skeptic, I firmly believe that there's only like 30,000 unique people in crypto.
Okay.
And I don't count the people who are gambling on Coinbase and Robinhood and so on. I mean users who use the wallet. And so we're addressing a very, very small market. 1,000 of those people are shuffling the same $10 billion around on all of these chains that are launching. And the only thing we do by scaling blockchains 100 times is we allow those same people to run 100 times more bots.
Yeah.
And so by adding more chains, we're actually not scaling because it's all immediately occupied by these bots. What if we could have an anti-Sybil chain connected to the Agglayer, which makes sure that you're a real person, gives you free transactions on that chain if you're a free person, so that as a free person you have free transactions, and we know that real people do not make that many transactions to choke a chain. And then, because it's connected to the Agglayer, all the other chains can actually read this anti-Sybil state of the user on the other chain and give them similar benefits on the other chains so that we can eliminate these bots that we don't want for the chains that don't want bots.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's one example. Another example is you have a Web3 game on one chain and an NFT marketplace of items on another chain. You can actually buy an asset on one chain and equip it on the other without having to bridge things over here and there. So you have this unification of things across the board. And then there's also a variety of app chains. What if I made, let's say that I created a DeepIn project where I give everybody a small weather station. And this weather station is connected to the blockchain and it submits weather data all the time. And now I made a chain which logs this weather data every single time a single user is submitted. This is obviously not scalable enough for L1s or even L2s, but an app chain might handle this. Now that I have this data on my chain, I can actually have other chains leverage this information without having to oracleize it. They can read it directly from my chain, but I can also provide this as an application layer thing where people can make prediction markets on other chains, prediction markets who will be predicting what a weather station will say in a week will be the weather, and then we can check later on how wrong they were. And over time, we have this bullshit meter for weather stations that have been lying to us all this time on TV of how wrong each station was and how wrongly they're interpreting the data.
That's really fascinating. So it's not just the unifying liquidity, it's unifying all data information processing into this one.
Exactly. Imagine reputation. You can have reputation on one chain and you've suddenly aggregated it across all of these other chains. You can have a chain that's reading reputation from a reputation chain that is logging it for everybody, and then you can apply it to, under collateralized loans and such.
No, I totally get it. The thing I have a big problem with, I guess, ID and reputation, because every single protocol says they do all these amazing things, mint my NFT and stuff, and then you get an extra humanity points. But you, like say, bots could do that easily, right? So what do you think as a crypto skeptic? Because to be honest, I love and hate crypto at the same time. Like the whole problem is, like you just said, the bots, the people, and people pretending to be actually legitimate people, and those people that actually really need to use this technology are missing out, right? So how would you want to see the future of like, let's say Sybil behavior or these kind of bots be dealt in the future? Because at the end of the day, I see there has to be kind of like a balance, because at the end of the day, there are arbitrage bots and liquidations and stuff that kind of need to happen on chain, right? How would you essentially moderate that?
I would charge bots more for transactions, and I would let users have free transactions. And by this, you balance this, you trickle down the net collected transaction fees into the users, because they're using it for free and the value of the chain is increasing, but the bots still have to pay, and the more they congest the chain, the more they pay, while the users stay at zero.
Fascinating.
Something similar was attempted, not even similar, but EOS tried to have free transactions for everybody joining, and then you pay after a while. Obviously this can't work because everybody just keeps creating new accounts and spamming the chain into oblivion. But there is a way to do this if you do proper anti-Sybil onboarding and then let bots pay the transaction fees. These bots make enough money to pay the fees. They will not mind. They're paying the fees right now. Yeah. But as long as we can filter the real users who actually want to use this technology and allow them to use it in a really accessible, which means free way, we will have the Web3 that we wanted.
How would you essentially verify? Because I'm sometimes very skeptical about KYCing certain myself, giving my IDs. How would you do that, in a sense? Because I know there used to be a project called Polygon ID, Privado now, and how are you going to essentially do it? Because I feel like there's many ways now with deepfakes, you can essentially buy a passport and then there you go.
This I do not know.
No?
No,
okay.
This I don't know. There are many different attempts. I don't trust anybody who looks at a scan of my passport based on what happened to Fractal, based on what happens all the time with these leaks, based on now the literal envelopes that I got in my home with a USB stick saying that I should plug this in to get a recovery of my funds from FTX or something like that.
Oh my God.
These are real attacks happening in real time to people's addresses because they leaked from these platforms. So I definitely don't want this. There are controversial attempts like the WorldCoin thing, which people feel weird about, but honestly, you're looking at a camera all day that is under the control of a corporation when you're unlocking your phone, and it's scanned your face from 300 different angles, and it's using your face to train algorithms. They're just not giving you coins for it, so you're not really outraged about it. WorldCoin here does have an anti-Sybil property that is salvageable and that I think can be used well. The problem is that shady people are at the top of it, so it's by default shady. There's also the protocol called Encointer on Polkadot, which basically uses in-person meetings to verify that somebody is a real person. Okay. So you will bring your personhood there, people will verify it, and you will get an actual badge of existence in your wallet. And these meetups happen semi-regularly, and they also generate some coins, but these coins are less of a consequence here. Absolutely. The more of the point is you're actually meeting people and making sure they're real. The problem there is you never know when you're going to walk into a gang of people who know you have money. Yeah. And meeting in person has always been kind of iffy, especially with the attacks ramping up lately. So I really don't know what the best way is. I really strongly doubt that the best way is sending passports to people. I think we might have to concede that we will have to eventually have some sort of government version of KYCing people in a cryptographic way. I already have to do this if I want to participate in auctions on the government level. Like if people lose houses or businesses, you can buy them as a citizen in your country usually. There's an auction page online. To do this, I actually had to go sign up for a crypto certificate, which I got on a USB stick. They checked my identity, they checked my history, they checked everything. They gave me a crypto identity. Now I have this USB stick, which I plug in whenever I want to interact with this protocol. Fascinating. And this is signing my messages and my bids for me. So I think if we graduate this into the blockchain sphere, we now have government-level KYC of citizens.
That makes perfect sense. And I think, I know people hate the government, but I think the government will, at the end of the day, have to take a role in it because of all the shadiness. Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to, let's say, get across to people about the aggregation layer that we haven't maybe covered? People often equate Polygon when they hear about it with Polygon POS. This is not
not the only, this is just one part of Polygon. Polygon is an entire stack of chains now, and a stack and an ecosystem of aggregated Web3. What people need to understand is that Agglayer is not a usurpation of some kind of mega sequencer, mega block builder, or some such thing. Agglayer is non-rent extractive. You can just start generating proofs and logging them into the Agglayer, and that's it. It will work. You do not have to pay anybody any rent. You do not have to bid for any kind of auction to get into this. You do not have to wait in line. You don't have to do really much of anything. It is a bit technically iffy right now because it's very early, so you have to get some support with plugging in and so on, especially if you're not a CDK chain. If you're not using Polygon CDK, it's harder. But it's already possible, and it's free, and it doesn't generate your blocks. It doesn't sequence your transactions. It only aggregates the proofs of these chains to make sure they can talk to each other. Sequencing is up to somebody else. Block generation is however you want to do it. A video game can join the Agglayer. If you generate proof from a save game to a save game that it's valid, you can submit that to the Agglayer. It's perfectly valid. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that you submit a way called an authenticator, a way to the Agglayer to know that a transition will be valid, and then further proofs have to just follow that formula that you've submitted, and you're good. You've joined the Agglayer. So people need to understand that it's very open, that it's meant to just aggregate liquidity and not attack any other protocol, and that it's meant to combine this fragmented landscape that we find ourselves in.
Fascinating. So to kind of like round off, in a year's time, where would you like to see, what would you like to see built like on the Agglayer? What's really thinking that is missing right now?
What's definitely missing is, what's missing in the entire ecosystem is just creativity. Everybody's building Uniswap clones, everybody's building Aave clones. It doesn't make sense. We have enough loan thingies, we have enough leverage thingies, we have enough dexes. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Stop building it. Build something useful. Check what people need, build something useful. But what I really think the Agglayer in particular needs, and this is something that is very open to applications from any team that wants, there's a lot of funding to be had for projects like these, is a super wallet. A super wallet that will read the Agglayer balance, the unified balance, that will allow you to execute these cross-chain transactions seamlessly, that will abstract this away from the user. Because if you try to use the Agglayer as is, you can, but it's still going to be a nightmare. Like anything on the blockchain, you can call contracts directly, but it's nightmarish. If you build a super wallet which can read these states and abstract this away from the user, show them just, here's how much USDC you have. It doesn't matter that it's USDC on this chain, USDC on this. No, here's how much USDC you have. And you show them this. And if he says, I want to send 50 USDC to Alice, and Alice is on a completely different chain, and you don't even have 50 USDC on one chain, you have 10, 10, 10, and 10, and 10, and 10, and 10. The wallet will automatically compose a sequence that will do this for them and seamlessly transfer it. And nobody will know what's going on behind the scenes. This is the super wallet we need. And not just from the financial end, but also from the messaging end. You know, if you want to call a function across a chain, people should be able to easily add it into the wallet. Projects should be able to add their ABIs and generally their function descriptions to this wallet so that the calls across chains are transparent. So this is one major project I'm excited to see built by anyone. So if you have ideas or a drive or ambition to do this, please get in touch.
Fascinating. Well, my brain is now ticking with all these amazing things that you've given me. I would like to say a big thank you to you, Bruno, from DevRel at Polygon. Oh my God, Agglayer at Polygon. And this was Weaving Web3 at ETH Milan. Thank you very much.
Thank you.